Okay. So we are pretty much going to talk about percentage sampling. It is one of the components which will help you to test anything. Okay. When I say test, let's say you have 100 rows or 200 rows, and you want to test it with only 0.5 rows of the existing information. That is like 5 rows out of 100. You want to send it to the transformation and check it if everything is working fine and all. So for that aspect, you will use this percentage sampling, or you could consider something like this as you have a whole package where you are sending source 100 rows from the source to destination, and out of this 100 files which come out of the destination, you want to pick up only 5 of the rows to see whether the process which has run has successfully implemented changes what you were expecting to, right? That could be one of the examples. So here, what I'm going to do is, I'll take this as an example. I'm going to take this person.person table. In this, I'll say business entity ID, first name, last name, and email promotion. Those are the columns I'll take. As an example, again, I'll take an derived column, which I'll add as a full name. Okay. Full name derived column is going to be add as a new column. That's cool. Okay. First name, then again plus sign. Between them I need some space too, and then again it's going to be a last name as a column. Okay, that's it. That's the full name. Okay, perfect. And then I have to take percentage sampling here. %10 of the rows would be here. I'm just using out of this, let's say 19,000. I only want 10% of the rows. Okay. Which are the 10% I selected? I want to put in a data viewer so that I can watch them while they come out. So if I execute this package, you will go back onto the data flow task to see what's happening. Let me So if we see, the data from there has been moved. All right. So out of this, the 10% of 19,000 should be 1,900 or so. So it's only displaying top 1,000. That means the rest of the rows are still in here, but it's not displaying. Okay. So if you don't know the number and you want to get a sample to see whether the implementation has run successfully or not, you could do this example for testing purposes and all. Okay, usually testers use this component. They would add it up and see whether the rows has worked out or not. Okay. If somebody is an SSIS tester and all, he'll be using it. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty simple component. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Okay, again the data flow task. So we already spoke about our row count and what did we did, huh? We'll talk about slowly changing dimensions now. Okay. then we should be pretty much, no, we have this fuzzy grouping and fuzzy grouping. Okay. Um, Slowly changing dimensions. Okay. So for that concept to be understandable, let's imagine we are some kind of insurance company or so. Okay, and you are one of our customers. Okay, um, so we could put you in a sense like um, from 2016 January onwards to till June of 2017, you are in some X street in X city. Okay, and then you move from there to another place in Y city in Y street. Okay, if we can track you by the timings you were in that particular place, we could give you a better deal, right? So that we know where were you earlier, where are you now. We know how are you moving across the country, or we could have more granular information. Okay. If we did not think in that way, what to usually comes to our mind was just overwriting you. All right. So let's say when you registered it, you gave a new your address, and now you update your address. That means your address have to be overwritten, right? Because it is because your statement, the bank statement, or whatever is coming to your home directly, and you think that the address at their end got overwritten, but it actually did not, because they want to keep records of where were you earlier and where are you now. So for that reason, they'll add an extra column saying start date and end date, and the row is active or not, or whatever the row doesn't have the end date would be active. Okay, that concept of understanding how dimensions like customer could be a dimension is moving across the city, or understanding how people are migrating from one place to another based on IT profession jobs and all, that could be tracked. Even insurance companies do it, health companies, everything, everybody does it, but it's not known out. So this is one of the example which will help you to understand, which will help you to create those kind of uh, options, like how you can track your data or do something like that. It will help you to do it. Okay, so let's say I'll go ahead and create a table for that. Um, city underscore. So first, let's say ID and in the name var care of 30. Okay, and this guy is residing in a city where you'll also have a varchar of 50 characters for the city name. Okay, so and this is going to be in our adventure works table. That's fine. SCD source. Okay, for now we have to insert few rows, right? Insert into deep row nodes now. Okay, I have defined 3 rows for in the table. So let's also do a select from the table and see whether the rows are really inserted in there or not. Okay, we could see the rows. That's good. So let's go use an source assistant for the adventure works. Table is going to be CDC source, all the columns needed. Perfect. So here we'll give it a slowly changing dimension. Okay. It would pop up a wizard. Our table is going to be okay. This needs to be a dim table. Okay. We need another table to store values, right? So okay. Um, is active. Let's say we will also call it as an int. Yeah, tiny. Tiny int is fine. Okay, that's my new table, and I'll call this dim underscore SCD. So here I'm going to pick up that dim underscore SCD. So I have to look for the table. dvr or dim underscore SCD. Back. Next. Next. Here it is. This is going to be my business key. So next. In fact, I even don't need this one. I have to choose this as a, and let's say this as an ID column. Let's say city as a fixed attribute. And let's say name as a fixed attribute. In fact, where the city has an changing attribute. No, let's say it is a historical attribute. So basically what I did was, let's start from the beginning. We chose a slowly changing dimension. And behind the scenes, we created 2 tables. One is for the CDC itself, okay, which holds an ID, name, and city. Okay, in there we have 3 values, say Mani, Praveen, and Sandeep, and each of them were in 3 different cities. Okay, we also created a dim table, which is currently empty. Okay, so we want to keep track of all the people. Okay, that is our basic example. What do we want to do? Okay, so I can also show you that there is nothing existing in this table from here, right? Okay, empty table. Okay, so in the source, I chose a source table and all. Now in the SCD, what I'm going to do is I am going to choose that source table, which is this one, and I'm going to mark this ID as a business entity ID. In fact, business key. That means business key is a primary key, which is not going to change anytime. Okay, so you could change your name, you could change your city, but not your ID. Okay, so that is going to be a static one. Next, out of the city and the name, I'm going to say mostly people would not change the name, but they could change the city, right? So I could say that name could be a changing attribute, whereas city has to be historical attribute. Okay, what does changing attribute and historical attribute are described here? Okay, changing attribute is a type 1 slowly changing dimension, whereas the historical is type 2 slowly changing dimension. Okay, when you say changing, what happened to females is that they would usually change their last name after they get married. That's a common practice people follow, right? There are people who do not follow it too. Nothing offensive in there, but yeah, they do change their names. So in that particular aspect, we just have to overwrite their records with their current name, because sometimes they could change their name and all. I don't want to. We don't want to track that information. Whereas a city, we want to keep the historical information too. So we want to track that information as a historical attribute. Also, in the historical attribute, we will have this start date and end date to mark what was changing in their names and all, in the city and all. So that is what we would use a historical attribute for. Okay, as I mentioned it here, it would have an record keeping columns and all. Okay, just say next here, and column to indicate current column. We don't have it. We can say current and expired. Okay. Column to indicate a current record. I do not have is active on a column on data. So it has to be a quick thing is not this table. If I choose is active, one is current value, start date and end date, and this could be system start time. Okay, that could be one of those things. Okay, so let's load the data and see whether we have succeeded or not. So let's load the data. That means for the first time, everything has to move. Now if I go back and do a select for star from dim SCD, it should show up the data. Okay, that's fine. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the data. So from the source, updated dbo dot SCD source set. We have this name as a changing attribute, right? So we'll do a city as an example first. So we'll change from Manish Hyderabad to something else. So we'll say, okay, that's Secunderabad or whatever it is, where ID equals to 1. Okay, now we change this city. It says it's updated 3 rows. Okay. I should have used 1, 2, and 3. I used the same name. What did I do? Just a second. Truncate table. Source is truncated. At the same time, truncate table. I will truncate the destination table now. Okay, in the source table, I'll add new rows, which is going to say 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Now I can stop this and rerun this package. Then I can go back and see the rows. Here, okay, 1, 2, 3. Now it's fine. Okay, it made it. Now I have to update money from Hyderabad to Secunderabad. Okay, that's updated. Now if I go stop this package, okay, just to ensure destination, we have money started but no end date and no activity and all. So don't worry about this column, but at least you have to have end date for this, probably a different timing, 7, 12, 17 seconds, probably 18 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever should be, because we updated it, right? Now let's go and run this package. Okay, that one row got updated. Let's go back and see what was a change we had. Okay, now money has an end date as well as he had a new row with the starting time. What is new start time is, and what is whether he has an end date. That means that money has moved from Hyderabad to Secunderabad after this particular time. It could be date, right? So sometimes in real time it could be date itself. So until the 29th he was here, 24th he was here, from 25th he is here, and all these things. Okay. So this is more like a historical attribute. We have this city as an historical attribute set at this level, right? If you remember, we set up this city as a historical attribute so that you're tracking the history of it. Whereas a name, let's just say for money or Sandeep, will change the name from something else to something else. Let's say we use a similar statement, update statement. Here, Sandeep's ID is 3, and I would change his name from Sandeep to SRK. Okay. So then you can go back and run this package again. It will just update his record. Right? You can, here in the destination, you could check it. We have just updated his record. It's not keeping a track of when his name got changed because it's not a historical attribute. You have this fixed attribute of ID and all. If you want to change that to an, if you want to try to change it, it will fail because that thing cannot be changed, right? Now let's also take an example of whether if you want to change the money's name to something else, Okay, so it's now in small letters. We'll mark it into capital letters. Let's say um, M as a capital. So that's also a change, right? Uh, so if we update in the source and if we try to run the package again, as it's a changing attribute, everything should change, but no tracking or nothing in the history should happen. So the latest one got changed, not the old one, but the latest one got changed. So that's what would happen. Okay. Does it make sense? What is slowly changing dimension? How does it track the things and all?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. You can ask me any questions if you have, if it's a little complicated or something like that. Well, it was just a configuration we have done. Pretty much everything would be handled in this slowly changing dimension component. Everything else will populate by its own. You just have to choose what is your destination table is going to be and mark one of those columns as a business key, which is like a primary key which will not change quite often. Not quite often, never, frankly. Whereas other things could be your you are changing attributes versus fixed attributes versus historical. What you want to track, what you want to let the user to change and all. That could be historical and changing attributes. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about fuzzy grouping. Next component. Let's go back and rename this thing. Okay, for the fuzzy grouping example, I'll take a data flow task. Okay, for the fuzzy grouping, I need in source. Okay, in fact, I'll write one more example. I'll create one more new query window. Okay. So places, and here I would have two things: ID, which is an int again, C underscore name. Again, I will care of 40 characters. Okay, so let's execute it. Let's create it. Perfect. Let's insert into dbo dot places. So here I will say 1. United States. Okay. Let's also copy this, which is pretty similar. Let's write long spell. So here, what I did was I created a few rows in here. While I was typing in here, I left a few words out. So a few letters out. If you see the Canada as an example, you could see my third row you could consider doesn't have DA. At the same time, from the United States, I left alone the letter S out of it. Okay. Yeah, I'll now make this one as 3, 4, 5, 6th row. This is 6th row. Okay. Whereas on 7th row, I'll write the perfect spelling of France. Okay. Okay. Whereas here I wrote a spelling with no E in there. So let's insert these rows. Now, imagine this is a web form and people tend to type it. Okay, because of some kind of urgency or some kind of spelling problems, people could write weird spellings. Okay, whereas they mean Canada, but they wrote Canada. They mean France, but they wrote France. They mean United States, but they wrote something else. So we should be able to group it together to the maximum extent of what is possible with a mission. And we could explore some of the options available in there to see whether we could perform any better. Okay, that is how this fuzzy grouping came into picture. Okay, so we would choose an adventure works table and this particular places table. Okay, and I'll choose all of these columns. Now we'll send it through a fuzzy grouping component. Let's see, you can see it right from here. We would send it to a fuzzy grouping component. In there, it will ask what is the exact column you want a fuzzy group on. So I would say C name, that's our city name or the state country name. Here is with the more advanced level of properties. What happens is if there is a 0.8% of match between Canada and Canada, this one and this one, I want to think it as the same letter. If it is less than that, I don't want to think it as the same letter. It could be a different one, right? So even then, there is a slight chance of getting differences and all. So we will still be okay with it. So we'll say okay, and then use a sort transformation to see what has happened to the data. So we want all the columns. That's fine, and we'll enable a data viewer here. So let's go ahead and run this particular task. So yeah, you can see from Canada, the original letter it had was, excuse me, original letter it had was CANAD, and when we cleaned it, we gave it as Canada, right? That is because its similarity has passed our threshold, which was 0.80, right? So we made an assumption that this is the clean name, and we gave it this one. Right, even for the United States, we missed an S here, which was 6th row in our insert, if you remember, right? 6th row in our insert, we missed an S here. When we sent it through a fuzzy grouping and all, it came with a clean name as an output with a similarity of 0.89 from previous fifth out. Okay, and same in the case of this one too, France too. Make sense?
Yeah.
It also does not only forward matching but also reverse matching. if you see here, what was our example? I gave second as a good perfect spelling, and the third was an imperfect spelling. So it made a match from 2 to 2, and it made a 2 when it gave 2 as an input and 2 as an output. It was 100% similarity. Whereas when it gave 3 as an input, it might have also tried for 3 1, then 3 2, then 3 3, 3 4, 3 5, 3 6, 3 7, 3 8, and 3 9. 3 7 until 3 7. Then it have looked through its score. Probably how much is its score? We made a mark of 0.80. Anything that over that is only been recorded in here. You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the thing which has it right. So let's also do one more example, saying we'll reduce the percentage. Go back and say let's reduce it to 0.10 and see what happens. Still going to be same because we do not have at least the letters starting with the same thing. If you had another country with Colombia or something like that, starting with the same letter, then we could have had a chance. But in this case, the example is so straightforward, it cannot do it. Okay. You could try something starting with CA, Cambridge or something like that with this mistaken spelling. It could try to match it for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got it. Okay. We have another component called the fuzzy lookup. Okay. We'll also look into that transformation. Okay, for the fuzzy lookup also, I'll take the same state. Places. Lookup. Okay. And I'll say 2 of it as a nice spelling. So what it has to do is, whenever it sees this particular row, it has to map it back to Canada. That's what fuzzy lookup has to do. Okay, so let's see it in an example. So what I'm going to do is, this is source, this is our initial table, places. You can see the data. We have 7 rows in here. As it is not a fuzzy grouping where it has an algorithm. It doesn't have algorithm. It has to look up through things now. So I'll use a fuzzy lookup here, and this is going to match here. And for the fuzzy lookup, if you remember other regular lookups too, it has to have some kind of reference table. That is our places underscore lookups table. Okay, and we'll map it. You don't have to map it with the ID. Edit mappings. delete it. Okay, fuzzy is this one. Yeah, you could have both the columns, that should not matter. Okay, we'll choose and sorted output to show you the data. More columns, more complexity. Okay, perfect. Let's run this fuzzy lookup. So if you see it, this is the row from our fuzzy lookup table. Okay, the column CNS name 1, and this is from our fuzzy lookup to this 1, 2, third column and 4 column. These are from our lookups tables because we didn't have United States relevant information on that. That's how you can identify it. Okay, so what happened is from your input table, this is left 2 columns. It found out that Australia is Australia, but Canada, it has made an exact match, right? Because if you see, we have only one particular row in the lookup table, and it could figure out that okay, even if you are missing a word here or letter here, it could make up a perfect match. Even that's the same case with the France too, because of the similarities and all. Even here we had an advanced properties for the similarities and all. That's again the same thing. You could use this similarities, confidence, and the similarities to do further more deep diving into it. That's as an example. All right. So yeah. Anything else? Any questions here on the fuzzy lookup?
No.
No. Very good. Okay. Let's get into another component. Okay. What are we left with here? We spoke about unpivot term extract from lookup, row sampling. Yeah, row sampling is another example. Yeah, you could also see that, right? Let's in the previous example, we made a percentage sampling and all, right? We'll make a row sampling here with the person table again. First, last, and the email conversion. Just let's directly put the row sampling here. Where did this row sampling go again now? Here I'll set 10 of the rows, that's it. I'll use 2 sort transformations. This one is going to be selected, and this one is unselected. Okay, for the selected. Let's run this one. Ten rows which we selected are here. That's it. Nothing fancy in here. You can see the 10 rows got moved here, and the rest of them are here, right? So that's about for row sampling and all. So we looked at the row sampling, pivot, percentage sampling, import column, export column, fuzzy groupings, DQs and data mining we'll talk about later. Probably you will never use it, so just ignore them. Copy column, character mapping. We'll talk about CDC splitter. Don't worry about it. I got it covered. Next again, we spoke about catchy transformation, audit, union all, sort, slowly changing dimensions, script component, row count, okay, OLDB command too. We got it. OData, HDFS systems. We'll talk in later when we go back onto the
control flow components. We'll talk about them. Okay. Pretty much we covered everything here, unless until you think anything else. Okay. So from the source and destinations, pretty much whatever you use in day-to-day life, that could be an OLDB, flat file, so Excel connections. We spoke about it. When we go on to control flow, we'll talk about XML raw files. That's pretty much going to be that. Okay. So probably I am not around that. Okay, I don't have to record this.